Welcome to another round of 16 match on the European side of the tournament. Alright, we're starting right off at the beginning of the match. Sorry about that. Had some slight organizational thing at the beginning. We have a round of 16 match on the European side. It's Lemonade versus DustyKevin. Lemonade on the top, DustyKevin on the bottom. Lemonade starting off with his Highlander Hunter and DustyKevin with his Priest. Sorry, I'm not naming an archetype name that's actually kind of hard here because it is a little bit out of the ordinary. I would call it maybe a somewhat basic Priest, like this deck you start off with that's a little beefed up. Lemonade again with the Highlander Hunter. Lemonade also brings a Galakrond Warrior, not the aggro variety, just the more mid-range control variety, and a Highlander Galakrond Rogue. DustyKevin also bringing a Tempo Mage and a Tempo Rogue, with Lemonade having his Galakrond Zoo Warlock band and DustyKevin having his Face Hunter band, which was arguably his most meta deck he was bringing. We're seeing already Lemonade starting off somewhat strong and probably will just... Oh, okay. I was about to say just he'll face, but no, he does play the Injured Blade Master to contest the board, fair enough. And plays Circle of Healing on top, it appears, which is a solid choice because that way you can make some good trades happen. And I expect we're just going to see Lemonade play the Ursatron here, playing it nice and slow, or a Hero Power to get a secret in play, but since it's not played from hand, that would not affect the Secret Keeper. So that is always something to keep in mind. Of course, if the secret is something like freezing, that could be rather debilitating to the Injured Blade Master, because you're freezing a 4/7, a 3-mana 4/7 that just comes back as a 5-mana 4/3, so that's pretty It's explosive. Not quite as bad. We see Whispers of Evil come down here, Lackey. That's a nice one, but the question is, what do you do? If he trades, which I expect he does, then it's fine. But otherwise, I would have probably... If he's deciding to hit face, which he isn't, okay, then I would have said probably better to... of course, definitely better to hit first with the Blade Master. We might just see the Sandbunner come down, fishing for Zephyrus here. Seems like the most mana efficient play for sure. Spellbreaker doesn't do much right now. We see Siamat come down instead, which, I mean, honestly, might be better right now. He can't play it right now, but it's not like he's desperately looking for answers at this point in time. Sending Shield Master seems like a somewhat solid play, although the question is, are you not gonna hit face? Because if you do, you would have wanted to play that after triggering the secret. So yeah, that was a bit of a misplay there from DustyKevin. Yeah, minor difference. It is just 2 health on 1 minion, but still you kind of don't want to have that happen, especially in a tournament setting. And we might see Animal Companion or Ursatron and a Hero Power. I don't see a reason right now for Spellbreaker, and just playing the Faceless Manipulator on just an empty board is just generally a pretty poor choice, because it's effectively maybe a 4 mana worth minion. And it appears like he's looking for Ursatron. Yeah, that's what he's doing. And that of course trades relatively well with either of the other minions. Of course, the Priest Hero Power allowing to circumvent those trades a little bit. Another Lackey, also not bad. Titanic specifically allows him to produce a lot of health on a single minion. So does the Power Word, of course. Both of which in conjunction allow him to make some really good trades here, while keeping up a big taunt minion. And now we see that actually was a slight misplay. I didn't even realize that at the time. You could have played Power Word Shield first, and then healed the Blade Master, because then he would have drawn an additional card off of the Cleric he just drew. Now granted, yeah, I think you should have probably traded the Blade Master in there. Although we might see that being spell bent either way. Although, I mean, just for taunt, an extra 2 health at this point. It might not even be worth it quite yet. And there's a Dragonbane drawn, which we just might see come into play. Dragonbane Hero Power, very solid way of dealing with something, maybe. We just see Spellbreaker Hero Power instead. Again, it might seem a little overkill at this point specifically, and especially now that Sunwalker might come down this turn, which would have been a way better target for the Spellbreaker. But... oh, we'll see. We see some draw instead, fair enough. Interesting choice not to play the Cleric there, keeping an extra point of mana open, and also potentially not drawing as much if you don't need it, but seems like he might actually want to keep it on hand, yeah, and Bran is playable this turn, so is Tiamat. Given the situation, I might just go for Bran if I'm Lemonade here, just push some damage. It's not like the priest deck here from Kevin is that explosive, and it might make sense to just try going for a somewhat quick win. Of course, Shadow Word Death deals very well with the King Crush that is being summoned. But that being said, you still do keep the Bran likely. Well, I mean, he's probably gonna trade it with a Blade Master, but you push 8 points of damage for very little cost. Goes for Rush, very good choice here. Rush Wind Fury, dealing with everything but the Lackey. Of course, had he gone for the White Shield Taunt, it would have just been dying to death, which does basically nothing. Proud Defender makes sense here. In that case, I wouldn't play the Cleric, because then, of course, the Proud Defender would have had extra life, and the Cleric doesn't proc off of Healing Face, so you're not gonna get much out of having it. It appears like Lemonade was picking up the Dragonbane briefly here. I would assume that Bran is actually a really good way to deal with the taunt, although the question is, do you want the King Crush to quote-unquote just hit a taunt? But there really isn't the most solid choice here of how to deal with this. I guess just keeping up a taunt is nice. Deadly Shot 50-50 hits the Cleric. That was definitely the worst outcome, especially now that the Proud Defender has a very good trade here. Now, of course, both minions in this 4-attack zone where they're very immune to all of the priest removal, except for Forbidden Words, which I don't think is in this deck. Play Silverhand Knight here for the stats on the board over the Sunwalker, which you could have played. Yeah, the attack order there was, of course, wrong. He would have attacked first optimally, and then traded, so that's another misplay, this time a little more important than the last one that we saw Kevin make here. And if you're Kevin, and especially Kevin, if you're listening, like, think a little longer before you make those sorts of plays. Just, you know, you have some cards in your deck that you know are somewhat situational, so maybe think about the exact implications of playing a card first. You can take some time, especially in this tournament setting where it's not necessarily about winning fast, it's more about winning at all. So, always good to just pay a little more attention to what you're doing. Puts down the taunt now as a defense against a lot of stuff that could come down, especially Bran. So, very good there. Zul'jin coming down, not that many spells cast, but there definitely is some very impactful ones, including actually the rather small Explosive Trap. Deadly Shot hitting perfectly. Animal Companion hitting the Huffer of all things. I was about to say, if that goes face now, then Bran, of course, is lethal. That is assuming no healing, which, you know, it'd be rather ludicrous to assume that a priest doesn't have healing, but still, with the Earthen Ring and Hero Power, you get to 12, which just puts you past the range for Hero Power and Bran. And the weapon doesn't quite do it because the Locust has Rush, not Charge. Now Zephyrus, on the other hand, I'm trying to think, but I don't think there's anything that deals quite that much damage. He might just give you, well, probably Tyrion, to be honest. So yeah, we're seeing... Oh, wait. 1 mana? I don't think so. Soulfire, right, Soulfire, I forgot about Soulfire. See, See, and that is where the experience with Zephyrus comes into play. I've personally played him somewhat, but evidently not as much as Lemonade. 1 mana, 4 damage, that's a lethal. And that is 1-0 for Lemonade, meaning that he now has to go to his Galakrond Warrior or his Highlander Galakrond Rogue. Kevin's still having all 3 decks as options. We'll see what the players choose. I honestly don't even know what I would pick in this situation. It probably boils down to one of the things that I say oftentimes, which is just play whichever deck you're most confident with. I know for my case, when I play in these tournaments, I also generally, especially if there's multiple options of what my opponent can choose, I just go with whichever deck I feel more confident with, rather than necessarily what is possibly the best matchups all across the board. We'll see the Highlander Galakrond Rogue coming down for Lemonade up top, and on the bottom side we see Kevin with his Tempo Mage. Also a little bit of an off-meta deck, but one that has, for a budget player, definitely been a very solid choice over the years. We'll see him not playing the missiles on 1, knowing that there's probably going to be a bigger impact at another point. And we'll see the Pharaoh Cat coming down for Lemonade. Picks up, ooh boy, not necessarily exactly what you're looking for right now, although he probably has enough plays in the upcoming turns that's not as important. Missiles, hoping for the 50-50 to kill the cat, and that it does. And we might just see coining into the Miscreant right now, giving him 2 lackeys to play with next turn. Probably the best enabling for the combo he's going to get anytime soon. Except if he coins the next turn to then also play a lackey, but that's not really much better. I think just do the tempo play and get out the Miscreant right now. Let's see what lackeys he's going to get. That's going to be very important. And we see 2 Ethereal lackeys. Now, that is very interesting. Mirror Entity definitely not the choice you want to do right now if you're Kevin, because the Mirror Entity would very likely just proc on a lackey, and he knows that, and he plays it accordingly. We have a Praise Galakrond drawn. I think we'll probably just see one of the Ethereal lackeys come down, see what he can get. If he gets nothing interesting, he might just use the hero power. Otherwise, something like Eviscerate might be decent for tempo. Decides to Praise Galakrond instead. Gets rid of the counterspell. Probably one of the cards that you really don't mind being counterspelled nearly as much as some of the others. Decides to keep the weapon up for removal options in the future. And we see Sorcerer Apprentice coming down and looking at the Mana Worm, meaning he can't play a spell the same turn. Decides to, well, hasn't said anything quite yet. Mirror Entity is still a little dubious in my opinion, because we're probably just going to see a lackey to proc it, which isn't exactly what you're looking for out of a 3 mana spell, or, well, in this case he paid 2 mana for it, but I still wouldn't want to pay 2 mana for a 1/1. Shadow Step actually means he just might get himself a 1/4. Yeah, if you're Lemonade, maybe think of playing the lackey first, because you can deal with those more easily. Not a huge concern either way, a little bit of extra health, but just a thought. And re-equips the dagger instead of playing more lackeys, knowing that he can take it a little slow. Keysmith seems like the strongest option here with what he plays. Flame Ward probably a very good secret here. It seems like he went with Vaporize. Now, the thing is, if he plays this cleverly and he hits with the Titanic Lackey first, then the Vaporize is gonna kill the Titanic Lackey. If you play Flame Ward, it's gonna kill the Titanic Lackey and damage the Miscreant, and anything else he plays before. It seems like he was thinking about attacking with the Miscreant first, and yeah, Vaporize doesn't trigger on minion hits, so that was a little bit of a weird play there. But now we'll see the Ethereal Lackey come down for the Discover. Camel Breath not that strong. Pickpocket, kind of a solid thing to get the value up, but he clearly has enough cards already, so he picks Sap. Mass Hysteria, solid removal choice as well. Vendetta could kill something, but it's probably not even worth killing the Miscreant with. And Frost Nova as a pickup here, I think. Okay, I was about to say I think we're going to see Mana Worm and Siniststorm here, which is exactly what happens. If you don't quite kill the Hench Clan Thug, you can then trade the Miscreant in there, which he does, leaving him with a relatively solid board. Of course, that does die to Vendetta. Or Assassin, I think is what the card he just drew, yeah. Interesting inclusion, you know, the choices you make in Highlander decks. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we just saw something like Shield of Galakron, play a Lackey, Vendetta the thing away, hit your weapon in the face maybe even. Although, it is always well to keep it up for removal options, especially if you're not a very aggressive deck. We do see the shield come down, and the new Lackey is gonna be a Draconic one. The other ones are Cobalt and Ethereal, decides to go for the Ethereal, expecting to have the highest value there. Picks up Wax Adamantium, one of the new cards from the Adventure. Just quick disclaimer for those who aren't aware, who didn't actively keep up with the tournament that much. The Galakron's Awakening cards are not includable in decks because the decklist submission deadline was before those were released. That's still even playing field for everyone, and they can every now and again come off of discoveries, however, that's fair game. And that might just be the card he's gonna play now, if Lemonade that is. Because yeah, just getting whatever is the best value. Blinkfox seems very solid. Gets him another card because he didn't have enough cards already. That seems to be a magic trick there. Mirror Entity actually getting a reasonable target. Once again, not playing around Mirror Entity very perfectly, but honestly, if you're ahead, you might want to preserve your tempo more than you actually care about the exact implications of the Mirror Entity. Kobolaki coming down to deal with the Mirror Entity Blinkfox anyways. That's just basically 2 extra damage to face and quote-unquote wasting the Lackey. Choose the Whelp of the Discovery of the Draconic Lackey for even more cards on hand, because you can never have enough cards on hand. Very solidly for a Lemonade, just consistently holding on to that card advantage, and that is what looks to be maybe carrying him to the victory later on. We'll just see Kronks come down to draw the Galakron, and I guess we're just gonna see... Oh, he Shadow Steps the Kronks, yeah, makes sense, and then Dagger hitting face. So yeah, now you can play Galakron and still cast a Devastation off of Kronks. There's a lot of good ones, especially for someone who is behind on health. You can use the healing one, you can use the Taunt minion. We're gonna see Sorcerer Apprentice come down, we might see the Fireball go face right now. Wouldn't be too surprised if that happened. Just keeping your opponent on his toes, and that is not what happens. Anubis Death burned here, not even that relevant. Let me have a quick look. I don't remember the Galakron exactly. Ooh, it's still at its base stage, right? It was only invoked once. We're seeing the Pharaoh Cat putting in some work here, though, with that minion coming down, summoning more Scarabs every turn, meaning that it's almost impossible for Kevin now to just go through this with minions. He decides to use the Fireball on it. I personally might have actually liked using the Fireball on face at some point, because you have to push damage somehow, and now that you're top decking, you're kind of relying on winning somewhat fast, and that's definitely not it. And yeah, the board just gets locked down anyways. We might see something like Rush Divine Shield. We'll see Divine Shield Wind Fury, kind of planning for a lethal strike next turn. We'll see a lot of damage go face, I assume, yeah. And that is 22 health, with just Tiamat and Leroy alone being 18 points of damage. So, with the rest of the board, that is lethal. Flame Strike is pretty good, yeah, you can ping there, Flame Strike, and... Oh no, wait, you can't Flame Strike because I can elect it already, fair enough. The Flame Strike plus Trade would have been perfect here, of course, mana wasn't quite there. Decides to keep the Kirintor Mage back for value. I don't agree with that, not that it matters because it was lethal either way, but yeah, just hit with a weapon and hit with the Leroy. That being said, Kirintor Mage is a card that you can definitely play in the late game, especially without a secret, just for the tempo, especially in this tempo-oriented deck. Bit of a disagreement here with him not playing it. That is 2-0 for Lemonade. Lemonade now having to play his Galakron Warrior in... If it keeps going like this, the final matchup. Otherwise, there is a reasonable chance, if Kevin wins, that he has to play it multiple times. But, of course, that means if you're Kevin, you know your opponent has to play Galakrond Warrior, and then you can bring whichever deck out of your lineup you feel most confident going up against that. Not that any of them are particularly well designed against it. Goes back to the Priest there, and picks up a rather solid starting hand. I would get rid of the Power Word Shield for sure. Maybe the Whispers. I would honestly keep Floating Device. We see Lemonade getting rid of a lot of stuff. Gets rid of everything. Plays Whispers first to look at what Lackey is going to get, and plays the Lackey for a potentially very strong impact minion there. I would go with Kobold's Spellkin here because as much as Deathwing might be a big impact play in the future, you should probably go for a bit more of a tempo game plan, keeping up the pressure, because otherwise you are just gonna lose. I don't think you're gonna necessarily go in a situation where you're overrun on the board and then Deathwing's gonna save you. I guess we're gonna see Cloning Device come down right now, yes. Leroy is a very interesting choice actually, because arguably you are the more aggressive deck here, despite, of course, the Warrior including Leroy. Not quite the control variety, not quite the aggro variety, a little bit in between, but leaning towards more of a mid-range control style, as I said in the beginning. Decides to go for the Shield of Galakrond. I don't know. Because you don't have Galakrond in your deck, meaning that the Invoke Trigger doesn't do anything for you. So I would have probably picked the Leroy there, or maybe even Snip Snap for the board, but I think that Shield was just the weakest choice there. We're gonna see Quartermaster come into play right now, picking up another Lackey. Well, picking up the first Lackey for Lemonade, that is. Titanic being actually very solid to contest the board. And I guess we're just gonna see a trade and heal. And I guess you picked the shield for maybe good tempo, but then Snip Snap would have still been better. I don't quite follow that one. Titanic Lackey seems like a solid choice to improve on your Quartermaster there. Quartermaster goes face, hero power, just playing it nice and slow. And I guess we're gonna see a Chillwind Yeti come down, I would assume, for the best stats. Decides to play Dark Iron Dwarf instead, it seems. Bit more of a direct impact, but since you can't go through the taunt either way, it doesn't really matter too much in my opinion. So he might have been better off just playing the Yeti. It's a very minute difference. Twin Tyrant on hand, yes, but that's gonna be a bit further away. So is the Deathwing, yeah. And Awaken deals with the board very nicely, allowing Lemonade to also push some damage into the face from the Quartermaster. Just slowly chipping in that damage while also making his trades. We see the Shield of Galakrond come down just as a reasonably statted taunt. Of course, no Invoke Trigger because no Galakrond. And we see the counterpoint coming down on Lemonade's side. In his case, he actually does get a bonus from it, that being the 3 attack, which means he can deal with the other shield very well. Keeping a 4/5 minion on his side. Somewhat consistently keeping the board in his favor. Now, Shadow Word Death, of course, cannot deal with something that has 4 attack, which is a little unfortunate. Yeah, I think just Yeti, Cleric, and Power Word Shield on probably the Yeti. Decides to go for the Cleric here. I think the Yeti, just for the extra stats, is more impactful. We see another one of the more aggressive cards in Lemonade's deck come up, the Quarterfinals Elite, that is. And yeah, we'll see the Spirit of the Rhino used for very good effect. Decides to trade into the Cleric, which is sensible, but that does mean that he is offering Lemonade a couple of draws. Holy Nova is a little awkward, but I might just play it here. Because you bring everything down to 2 or less, and then on the next turn you can Holy Nova to kill it off. It's not perfect, but it might have been worth a consideration. Twin Tyrant is possible next turn to deal with some of the minions on Lemonade's board. The question is, are we going to see 12 damage go to face or 8? It's going to be 12. So that's definitely a good setup for the Twin Tyrant now, making it more likely to hit something with an actual impact. And then you can even play Circle for some draw, although it's not very impactful. There's actually 2 of the aggressive minions there. Aggressive as in they have attack. and decides to ping slightly into the Rhino. Not a big impact, but also the one face damage wouldn't have mattered, so that's still fair enough. Ziliak's drawn, very interesting. And we're gonna see Whirlwind come down to deal with the entire board once again. Warrior doing warrior things here. Just keeping control of the board. The question is, are we gonna see Snip Snap? I don't even think so. Didn't look like it, nope. And, well, now the Holy Nova definitely deals with the board very well. And you probably have to as well. It's some extra healing onto your face. It clears the board. It gives you a little bit of breathing room, and if you learn from your last mistake, you will now attack with the Proud Defender before playing additional minions. We see Galakron come down, draws, oh boy, the Siamat and the Leroy with the extra stats. Doesn't even hero power, because why really would he? Siamat deals, of course, with everything perfectly anyways. And once again plays the minion first, Kevin! That's not, no. That's not how you play that. You know that. You've just made that mistake. Come on. So yeah, Kevin, I hope you're watching this video. There is some improvements that could be made to your gameplay. Of course also to your decks, but I think the improvement to the gameplay is one of those things that can just, especially with these kind of simpler mistakes, can improve your win percentage enough that it definitely increases the speed at which you can climb the ladder. We'll see Shieldmaster and Holy Nova come down here, taking away that Shield of Galakron, healing his face a little further. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Siamat come down for... Doesn't even hit the Sunwalker in, which is interesting in my opinion. We see the Siamat come down now. Probably just Wind Fury Rush. And Hero Power deals with... Or Snip Snap deals with the taunt and with the Divine Shield, and then the taunts to do their thing. And yeah, that's just one extra point of damage. I personally would have probably preferred keeping the Snip Snap over dealing with one extra point of damage, but that's a very small difference and a very much preference thing. Deathwing being really the only out here besides maybe... I mean, Shadow Word Death would have also been able to deal with the biggest threat here, but Leroy now has 10 attack plus hero power is 13. So that's lethal. If you want to be fancy, you could have played the Devoted Maniac instead of the hero power, same end result. And that is 3-0 for Lemonade. So yeah, congrats to Lemonade for winning this round, and Kevin, maybe, like, again, watch your tape, learn from your mistakes, and maybe try bring some better decks next time. Next tournament is in around about 4 months when the next expansion comes out, so hopefully we're looking forward to seeing you there again. And speaking of looking forward to seeing people, I hope to see all of you who are watching this in our Discord server if you aren't already. Link to that is in the description, where you can talk to us as well as us, meaning me and Alex, who currently isn't here. And the competitors, of course, that you saw just play just now. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel to get notified whenever new videos come out. There's also this little bell icon that you can hit a couple times to get notifications, not just seeing it in your sub box. And then you can hit like on the video if you want to let the competitors know that you enjoyed this content. And, you know, leave a comment, point out plays that you liked, disliked, flaws in my commentary. There's probably some. And, yeah, I said like, comment, subscribe, yeah, the whole thing. Until next time, that's it.